Tonight, a twist in the blame game over the Novak Djokovic border fast as his family comes out fighting and Serbia gives Australia a diplomatic serve.
A close call for shoppers as powerful storms lash the suburbs and the danger's not over.
1 in 3 test positive as Victoria records another 20,000 cases and new rules come into force.
Australians warn there'll be empty shelves ahead as supply chains buckle.
Breaking news on the hunt for a fugitive hit-run driver accused of killing a cyclist.
And Scott Boland strikes early as England fights back in the pink test at the SCG.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. Australia has copped a diplomatic serve from Serbia, accusing the government of treating Novak Djokovic inhumanely.
The tennis superstar is now heading into his second night in immigration detention in Melbourne, with his family and protesters demanding his release. And there's a twist in the blame game on how he ended up there.
From Centre Court to the Federal Court via the Park Hotel. Novak Djokovic's unchosen accommodation in Carlton is shared with 36 asylum seekers and refugees. According to his mum, not good enough.
I feel terrible since yesterday, last 24 hours, that they are keeping him as a prisoner. It's just not fair, it's not human.
He's there because our federal government denied him entry into Australia. The world's #1 male player does have a vaccine exemption to play the Australian Open, but not to enter the country.
The Minister for Health was absolutely black and white clear to Mr Djokovic about what his responsibilities and the expectations were.
I'm advised that the Victorian Government or members of the Victorian Government hadn't seen that correspondence, and you'd expect that we wouldn't necessarily see that because it was correspondence between the Commonwealth Government and Tennis Australia.
No word from Tennis Australia today on what they think has gone wrong. It's also Serbian Christmas. Novak's wife tweeting, "We wish we are all together today. My consolation is at least we are healthy."
His accommodation? Yes. Terrible. It's so dirty and the food is so terrible.
Asylum seekers agree. They've complained about maggots in the food.
He's eating the same food that I eat, probably. And he's using the same sheets that I use.
Mehdi Ali's been in immigration detention 9 years. He was moved to this hotel last year. His birthday, today.
Mr. Djokovic has been held down there. But we're not allowed to go down because the guards are sitting and
they're frustrated. It took a famous tennis player for the world to pay them attention.
I hope that when he's going to get out, he has a strong voice. And he used his voice towards us as he experienced the detention time.
That could be on Monday when Novak Djokovic's case returns to court.
The wheels of justice turn pretty slowly, and I wouldn't be so surprised if the court allows him to play while those wheels of justice slowly do their thing.
Fellow player Nick Kyrgios, often outspoken about Djokovic and his anti-vax stance, says how we are handling Novak's situation is bad, really bad. At the end of the day, he is human. Do better. Outside his hotel, refugee campaigners, anti-mandate protesters and Serbian fans sharing wildly unexpected common ground.
Darling, I will give him my kidney if that needed. Honestly, if he needed, I will donate my kidney to him.
All the support from all the Serbs.
That's how much we love him.
And Blake, the political case is mounting just as quickly as the legal one.
At an international level too, Beck, Australia's ambassador in Serbia was called on this afternoon and asked to take personal responsibility for moving Novak Djokovic from this hotel to another one. The Serbian Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it does not wish to influence the Australian judiciary, but, quote, the Serbian public has a strong impression Mr Djokovic is a victim of a political game against his will and that he was lured to travel to Australia in order to be humiliated. In response, Australia's Home Affairs Minister says Novak Djokovic is free to leave Australia anytime he likes.
OK, Blake Johnson, thank you.
Victoria has copped a battering from powerful summer storms, bringing down a shopping centre ceiling and flooding homes and streets. The Bureau of Meteorology says there's more to come with dangerous storms happening right now.
A shopping centre roof no match for the storm that tore through Melbourne's west and southwest. Shoppers dodging the deluge at Sanctuary Lakes in Point Cook.
I've never seen rain like it, and I'm from England. I've never seen rain. That was horrendous rain. It was absolutely torrential.
These subway workers given the shock of their life.
It just started leaking from the roof, and then everything just fell.
We did get pretty scared.
Sanctuary Lakes wasn't the only shopping centre left with a huge damage bill.
We've got a hole in the roof.
The heavy rains moved across Melbourne from north to south, but they were hit and miss all day. In Truganina, residents copped a drenching. The roads were turned to rivers in Mornington, and in Geelong, the rain fell as hail. At Seabrook, the residents of this home were forced inside by flash flooding, while storm drains overflowed and debris was dragged into stormwater drains and sent streaming into the bay. All that debris has contributed to poor water quality at our beaches and rivers, the EPA saying we shouldn't swim in the ocean for the next few days. Tell that to this family, who can now canoe down their street. Estelle Greepink, 7 News.
And Estelle joins us live. Estelle, we're now bracing for even more storms.
Well, Mike, it seems like the storm has already hit us here in the Docklands. The Bureau is calling this a very dangerous thunderstorm that is about to hit the west of the city as well as the CBD. We know that this could cause flash flooding, destructive winds and what the Bureau is calling giant hailstones. Laverton, Williamstown and Footscray have been hit as that storm moved through Werribee. And we know tonight that people living in Geelong and the Mornington Peninsula should also beware of this dangerous storm. Mike?
Estelle Greepink, thank you.
Well, here's a sobering fact. 1 in 3 Victorians who took a PCR test yesterday came back positive. The sharp jump came as the state recorded another 21,000 new cases, and our new rules came into force, slashing queues at testing centres.
The biggest change to the way Victoria records cases had an immediate impact. Demand and long lines shifted to rapid antigen test kits. On a day 32% of swabs returned a positive result, thousands of home test kits were handed out, but they're still in short supply.
There aren't pallets of tests at testing stations you can drive up and just help yourselves. This is people being allocated one rapid antigen test when they turn up for a test at one of our PCR testing sites.
Our whole testing regime is just a little bit out of control. So let's just focus on the people that are truly symptomatic or have had a positive rapid antigen test.
Small shipments have arrived, but Victoria is still waiting on the bulk of the state's order for 44 million.
We've got teams right now, in China and in other countries, working actively with those suppliers to make sure they deliver on their commitments that they've made to us.
Clearly, if we had more of these test kits, it would have been extremely handy, and that's a worldwide supply issue.
From this afternoon, Victorians were required to register a positive rapid result online or over the phone. There are 9 questions on the web form designed to provide help to the sickest cases.
For many people, they'll be able to manage their illness themselves at home.
If you test positive on a rat but you're not a close contact and don't have symptoms, it's recommended you confirm with a PCR test.
If you've got no symptoms and you've got no awareness of where this might have come from, then absolutely, if you can get access to a PCR easily and you're willing to come forward to one of our test sites, then please do so.
Victoria recorded 21,728 cases and 6 more people died with COVID. Hospital figures are steady, 644 patients, an increase of 13 on yesterday. New South Wales recorded more than 38,000 new cases, the surge prompting their government to shut down dance floors.
There'll be no singing and dancing in hospitality venues. That does not include weddings or performers or classes.
We'll monitor closely their settings and the impact it may be having on helping manage the spread of the virus in the community.
We probably jumped into our freedom too quickly. We probably could have done it more slowly and more intelligently.
New South Wales will also extend its vaccine mandate for teachers and frontline workers. They will be required to receive their booster shot. In Victoria, 14% of eligible adults have now had 3 doses. The line for boosters at the Royal Exhibition Building was moving steadily this afternoon. Many in the queue thinking of friends or family with COVID.
Yes, so many people. So happy to not be one of them and to be boosted.
Emma O'Sullivan joins us now. Good evening to you, Emma. The new system for self-reporting COVID results, well, it's gone live.
Beck, that web form where Victorians can fill out details about their positive result was live by the afternoon. From now on, anyone who does test positive to a rat, they legally need to isolate for 7 days, as well as inform their close contacts. The COVID commander, Jerome Weidmar, he was fairly confident the site would stand up to very busy traffic with people potentially recording results from the past couple of days as well as today. We're told that site has the capacity to record 50,000 results daily, and that can be expanded further if needed.
Emma O'Sullivan, thank you.
Australians are being told to expect more empty supermarket shelves over the coming weeks as Omicron creates havoc with our supply chain. It's being described as a national crisis, forcing the Morrison government to consider new isolation rules for transport and distribution workers.
Empty freezers, bare shelves. Woolworths says get used to it.
What we are seeing now is what is going to continue for at least a couple of weeks.
Shortages, this time not the result of hoarding, but a severe lack of staff, with workers constantly sidelined by Omicron.
It is a massive national crisis.
From fruit pickers to truck drivers, warehouse workers and shelf stackers, there's not enough people to get goods into the shops.
This is probably as bad as the situation's been in terms of the interruption to supply chains.
The most noticeable gaps: fresh fruit and vegetables, red meat and poultry.
Customers can expect to continue to see empty shelves.
Coles already has 2-pack limits on mincemeat, sausages and chicken. No restrictions in Woolworths, but the supermarket giant is reporting COVID-driven absences like never before. Up to 20% in its distribution centres, 10% in stores. The Transport Workers Union says it's the same at the ports. Staffing levels down between 30 and 50%, with 10 to 15% of road transport workers calling in sick every day.
We're just being put on notice now by the parcel operators that they expect this type of effect to start hitting them within the next 5 to 10 days.
To fix the problem, the government's now considering changing the rules for supply chain workers, removing the need for those deemed COVID close contacts to isolate. Similar to the changes recently announced in aged care.
To minimise the numbers of staff that have to basically stay at home.
So we can keep them at work, keep those trucks moving, keep those supplies moving.
Until then, the message is clear.
Please don't go out and buy unnecessarily.
Hoarding will only make things worse. Rob Scott, 7 News.
It's been revealed a fully vaccinated young man has died with COVID in Sydney. 23-year-old James Condilius was an award-winning scientist and powerlifter with no underlying health conditions. He suffered severe complications and died earlier this week.
The Omicron surge has hit Melbourne's retail and hospitality sector hard, with consumer spending plummeting. New data reflects typical lockdown conditions as Victorians stay at home to avoid getting sick.
The end of lockdown was a cause for celebration, but heading into the new year, what should have been the biggest celebration with its lack of crowds symbolises what ANZ has discovered at the till.
Omicron is keeping people at home and staff shortages are keeping people from dining out as usual. We're seeing in other states as well that spending has dropped very sharply since the silly season.
Unsurprisingly, the biggest dips are Melbourne during its 2020 lockdown and Sydney's lockdown last year. The rest of the country faring much better throughout, although spending in Sydney and Melbourne is considerably lower right now than previous New Year's. Omicron not only spawns uncertainty, it physically sends shoppers and employees into isolation.
There is a certain level of fear, and as we see
those numbers increase, as we see the numbers of infections increase, ultimately people are just simply trying to keep their loved ones safe.
Ironically, an end to mask wearing and lockdowns were intended to boost the economy, to get us spending and provide freedoms that are slowly being rescinded yet again.
Opening up is the best thing we can do for our economy. Now, clearly, in the middle of a pandemic, when cases rise, that will dampen confidence.
The post-Christmas spending hangover traditionally sees wallets close anyway, a double hit to retailers who can only hope 2022 is the light at the end of this dark tunnel. Robert Avadia, 7 News.
In breaking news, a man wanted over a fatal hit run is tonight in custody. Cassie Zervos has the details. Cassie, his arrest came just after a new police appeal.
Well, Beck, 7 News can confirm a man wanted over a fatal hit run in Hampton Park handed himself into police late this afternoon. The 29-year-old remains here at police headquarters after presenting himself over an hour ago now. The arrest comes after police released new vision moments after the crash, which shows the accused running down a Glen Waverley street after he allegedly killed Soleil Manapore while driving a stolen car. The same man is captured calmly walking away after he set that car on fire. Now, police believe he allegedly ran a red light at the intersection of Hallam and Pound Road when he struck Soleil and left him for dead. And as we go to air tonight, detectives have begun that interview process. It is likely it could go into the night, but I have been told charges are expected. Beck.
OK, thank you very much, Cassie.
A learner driver's been charged over a fiery stolen car crash in Albert Park. The 19-year-old girl lost control of the Holden Astra on Lakeside Drive on Sunday morning after allegedly stealing the car from a Mentone home. Her 2 passengers suffered life-threatening injuries in the crash. She's faced court on charges including dangerous driving and speeding.
It is the most colourful day in cricket, and today the Pink Test raised up to $43 million for the Jane McGrath Foundation. Fans, cancer survivors and their families all agreeing the day is about much more than just cricket.
The SCG looking pretty in pink. Pink Test! The official goal, make this the pinkest test ever. Yay! Those in blue went pink. The man himself, home battling COVID, but he is fully waxed.
I think this is beyond cricket. It's beyond, it's great that we can combine sport and combine something like this.
Some dressing to remember family.
This is especially my mum did it for me, and she passed away in 2019 from cancer.
Others, close friends.
I'm so grateful because I know Jane would be so grateful for that support.
Neil Favager lost his wife to cancer 12 years ago. Since then, he's volunteered for the McGrath Foundation every single year.
And it's just a nice day because you can walk around, people are in a good mood, everyone's wearing pink.
100,000 families receiving support from the foundation. It's breast care nurses or pink angels, the real heroes.
It was mostly just having the emotional support of people whilst having to do my treatment.
This event has had everything thrown in it, from COVID-19 to social distancing, and now the weather. What they may have lost in numbers, but when it comes to spirit, well, they've hit for 6.
For those who couldn't make it, tickets in a virtual stadium sold, with more than $3 million raised.
Oh, it's massive, Flame. It's something I'm very, very proud of.
Topped off with a pledge from the nation's top office.
We'll commit a further $40 million to increase the number of government-funded breast care nurses.
Expectations bowled over on one of cricket's special days. Liam Tapper, 7 News.
It is just fantastic, isn't it? Jackie Felgate snuck in for a little hit of sport. Hi, Jack.
Hello, Beck. Yes, it's been a big day. A few late wickets have swung fortunes their way after some gutsy performances by the English middle order. Fan favourite Scott Boland delivered once again, claiming 2 memorable wickets before being injured in a fall on the pitch. Strict new COVID protocols for AFLW players and staff as season 2022 gets underway. Ash Barty's Australian Open campaign on track with a straight sets win at the Adelaide International. Plus the unbelievable buzzer beater that clinched victory for the New York Knicks. All that and plenty more coming up in sport, guys.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Ahead, a Powerball winner's extraordinary pledge after he scooped a $60 million jackpot.
Plus questions on the vaccine rollout for children. We've got the doses and demand, but is there another problem?
A wild joyride in a stolen Ferrari ends in a showdown with police.
Joe Biden unleashes on Donald Trump with a warning.
And later, what you need to know about boosters and catching COVID. Investigation into the long-running iCook food saga has wrapped up with no one facing criminal charges. The catering company claims a council inspector planted a slug in its kitchen during an investigation linked to the death of an elderly woman. Dozens of people lost their jobs when the company was shut down. Police have not found evidence leading to charges of corruption or sabotage. iCook Foods is still suing the government and local council.
The rollout of COVID vaccinations for 5 to 11-year-olds starts Monday, but there are some hurdles. Some parents have been told their child's jab will be delayed due to delivery problems. In Queensland, they're even considering delaying the start of school.
Precious cargo. This GP clinic, one of the first in the country to take delivery of Pfizer for 5 to 11-year-olds.
They're the children's vax.
They have a needle and then they stick it in you and then they get a plaster and cover the hole. I feel a little bit scared.
Parents are scared too.
Look, the numbers are just so high at the moment. You just want to minimise as much disruption as possible.
But some doctors say delivery has been disrupted.
They promoted that the children's vaccines were starting on Monday the 10th, yet they're not delivering in time. I find that, appalling.
With vaccine stock not arriving today, Margot Davis has had to cancel next week's vaccine appointments while she waits. Federal health authorities deny that there has been any delay in delivery, saying that all clinics which ordered their vaccines before the December deadline have received them on time. At this GP clinic, the issue isn't supply but demand.
Our kids' vaccines are booked out for January already.
More than 2 million 5 to 11-year-olds will be eligible to be vaccinated from Monday, but with an 8-week interval between doses for that age group, none will be fully vaccinated when they return to the classroom at the end of the month. Queensland considering pushing back the start to the school year to allow more time.
We are looking at a 1 to 2 week delay in relation to the return to school.
Amelia Brace, 7 News.
A teenager's been arrested after police chased a Ferrari through Sydney streets. Police say when they caught up with the stolen car, the 17-year-old passenger assaulted an officer while the driver sped off. The passenger was arrested nearby, accused of stealing 3 luxury cars, including the Ferrari. All 3 cars were found abandoned. Detectives are still searching for 4 other males.
Joe Biden has mounted a striking attack on Donald Trump 1 year on from Washington's Capitol Hill riot. The US president accused Mr. Trump and his supporters of holding a dagger to the throat of the country's democracy.
Heading to Capitol Hill, Joe Biden. Till now, the president has waved off, even chuckled about, rival Donald Trump. Not today.
He's not just a former president. He's a defeated former president.
Speaking in the same building under siege 1 year earlier.
USA! USA! Former president of the United States of America has created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election.
Not just a liar, this president says this ex-president is a threat to the world's most powerful democracy.
I will allow no one to place a dagger at the throat of democracy.
1 year ago, President Biden had reason to hope that the election cheating claims and Donald Trump himself would fade into history. It hasn't happened. Recent polling shows tens of millions of Americans remain convinced their presidential election was rigged. Tonight, dueling protests with dueling takes on last year's riot.
I was there. It was a beautiful crowd. Everybody loved each other.
Scary time.
Really scary time.
Americans yet to resolve their differences from the last presidential vote. And it's far from clear they'll accept the outcome of the next one. In Washington, D.C., Tim Lester, 7 News.
A Brisbane man is gobsmacked after pocketing the entire $60 million Powerball jackpot. After several missed calls from officials at the lot, they finally managed to get through to tell him the very, very good news. The man, aged in his 30s, says he'll use the winnings to buy his first home, and he still plans to turn up to work. No, surely not. I mean, I love my job, but, as we saw, heavy rain, damaging winds and large hail has lashed the city during a second day of severe thunderstorms.
Sonia Marinelli is tracking a dangerous storm this evening. Sonia, you look pretty nasty out there. What's the latest?
Well, Mike, it sparked up late this afternoon and has authorities on high alert. Right now it is tracking over Werribee and is heading towards the city. This cluster of storms is very dangerous. It is closing in on us now, but most of Greater Melbourne remains under a severe storm risk tonight. They are capable of producing damaging winds, large hail and heavy rain, which could lead to flash flooding. This was day 3 of our storm risk and the most active, but tomorrow it clears the city. I'll be back with the latest on the storms and your forecast after sport, Mike.
Yeah, looked pretty gloomy in the background there for a while. Thanks, Son. A dangerous car fault has been detected in thousands of vehicles, but the manufacturer can't fix it. The details ahead on 7 News.
Plus, an IVF blow. Family hopes put on hold again as our hospitals face a chilling forecast.
Dozens killed, thousands arrested, communications cut as Russia sends in the troops.
And meet the 87-year-old in a league of her own, 3 life memberships with 3 footy clubs.
The hospital crisis is growing more desperate, with a drastic overhaul of isolation rules to ensure enough staff can treat a new wave of COVID patients.
Elective surgery is once again banned, dashing the hopes of prospective parents doing IVF.
Heartbreak as the dream of having a baby is once again put on hold because of the new ban on elective surgery.
For us, this doesn't feel elective because it feels like time is running out.
The Reveres have tried for years to become pregnant.
When every day matters, it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
New South Wales is also suspending elective surgeries until mid-February. Sydney hospitals are preparing for COVID-related admissions to triple. Victorian hospitals too buckling under the pressure of rising case numbers. They're suffering critical staff shortages as workers succumb to COVID and others isolate as close contacts.
There's no doubt that the increased number of people isolating is making it difficult for business as usual to proceed.
Frankston Hospital is calling for retired nurses to come back, regardless of how long ago they worked or their experience. The situation is so dire that hospital staff who are close contacts of positive patients will still be allowed to work. The state government is waiving isolation requirements to help ease the pressure on healthcare.
It also involves the healthcare worker undertaking a daily rapid antigen test, wearing an N95 mask and agreeing not to share meal breaks.
Meanwhile, IVF specialists argue the sector should be allowed to continue.
So I am calling on the government to rethink this decision. I don't believe IVF does impact hospital resources. They are very short cases.
Short but time critical when biological clocks are ticking.
We don't give up.
No.
That's not who we are.
Jackie Quist, 7 News.
We wish them well. Hundreds of thousands of Mercedes-Benz cars may have a potentially dangerous fault, but there aren't enough parts to start a recall. A range of diesel models are affected, in particular those produced between January 2017 and October last year. Now, there's a problem with a leaky coolant pump, which in rare cases could lead to high temperatures and an increased risk of fire. The automaker is having trouble sourcing enough replacement parts.
Dozens of people have been killed in a crackdown against anti-government protests gripping Kazakhstan. Vladimir Putin has now sent in his own troops over the border to quell the violence as communications with the former Soviet nation went dark.
On the streets of Kazakhstan's largest city, troops open fire as Russian soldiers head for the border to join them, invited in on a peacekeeping mission in the aftermath of days of protest. that's seen thousands take to the streets of cities across the country, angry at high fuel prices and apparent government indifference. The mayor's office still burns. The presidential palace, a smouldering burnt-out shell surrounded by the charred remains of security forces' vehicles. Now, the crackdown has begun.
Whether they are Kazakh or whether they are non-Kazakh troops, need to uphold the same human rights standards, which is to show restraint and protect people's rights to demonstrate peacefully.
But up to 2,000 people have been arrested. Dozens of protesters are dead. Kazakh authorities say they were eliminated. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
An 87-year-old Melbourne woman has created unlikely sporting history. Devoted volunteer Jan Mildenhall has just been made a life member of her third community footy team.
Idolised at 3 clubs. Triple life member Jan Mildenhall has volunteered at local footy for 74 of her 87 years. But she never actually watches the game.
I like to move around the crowd and talk.
So let me get this right. You go to the footy to talk?
Well, virtually. I talk everywhere. Keep up the pace. Doing well, fellas.
At Mordialloc, she started Auskick and strictly enforces a no swearing rule. What happens to people who break the rules?
They get my look and they get taken aside.
Are you a little scared of it?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. She started volunteering in the canteen at her brother's club Chelsea. In 2 stints, 52 years at the Gulls. Then with her late husband, secretary at Gippsland's Tura Magpies for 14. Now at the Mordialloc Bloods, 10 years. A life member of all 3.
It's a massive honour to get 1 life membership, but to get 3, that's a huge achievement.
Embraced now, but when she started out in the 1950s...
My God, they were aghast. One fella said to me, Jan, I can't play football here if you're going to be secretary. And I said, well, you better leave.
She's proudest of her influence on young lives.
And they're not walking the streets getting into trouble. So they grow up to be better people.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
She's the best. I love her. About 1 in 50 Victorians currently have COVID.
And that raises the question, should they be lining up to get a booster shot? We've spoken to the experts and the answer may surprise you. That's next.
Dodging disaster on an icy freeway.
Plus cars that change colour and a game-changing device for parents. The new tech coming your way.
More than 685,000 Australians have tested positive for COVID in the past 2 years, most of those in the past 2 weeks. But the arrival of Omicron comes as many of us are about to get boosters, and that's a problem. We spoke to one of Australia's best, Professor Robert Boy. He says if you're booked for a booster and suddenly catch COVID, cancel. Getting the vaccine could actually complicate things, basically system overload. Now, the good news is this.
If you catch Omicron, you're likely to get this natural boosting. So you get this extra kind of immunity which stops the virus from even getting to you another time.
You heard it, catching COVID gives you the booster effect anyway. For anyone over 65 or with a health condition, still get that 3rd shot. Just to be sure, but just wait a month for your body to recover. Now, it is the same advice for children with vaccines starting Monday.
Don't panic if your child gets an infection. They'll get some immunity from it and then they can have their first dose at least a month after they've recovered.
As always, if you have any doubts, speak to your doctor. Mike.
Thanks, Beck. Colour-changing cars, giant TVs and handy parenting devices were front and centre at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. The show was a little subdued due to the Omicron surge in America, but there were still plenty of inventions to get excited about.
The biggest tech and gadget show in the world. This year, a little different.
A lot of companies have decided to stay away this year.
But that hasn't stopped other innovators heading to Las Vegas to reveal products we didn't even know we needed. TVs, as always, were front and centre.
120-inch laser TV. This is a product which is absolutely ridiculous, but is going to bring you that amazing cinema quality experience.
LG rolling out a new screen which can move from room to room. Samsung has brushed up on the frame. It displays artwork when it's switched off, but now it's also anti-glare. Smartphones stood out, offering more for less.
It has an awesome camera, it's got an all-day battery and the ability to wireless charge, all for under $1,000.
Auto giant BMW stole the show with technology that changes the colour of your car with the touch of a button, while this sleep trainer can tell new parents why their baby is crying.
Any parent will want to buy this product.
Timely products too. This ventilation creation can be put under a face mask to keep you cool.
COVID is a big theme here for products.
Also a big challenge. Smaller crowds and a day shorter. The tech world hoping next year will be virus-free. Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
State troopers dodged disaster on an icy freeway, spotting an out-of-control car just in time. Lucky he had some pretty good reflexes, managing to avoid vehicles on both sides. No one, amazingly, was hurt.
They are good reflexes. Now, it's been a battle at the Ashes. Jackie, both teams putting their bodies on the line.
That's right, Mike. Hello. A very physical day's play at the SCG, with England hanging on after being 4 for 36 at one stage. Scott Boland injured after claiming 2 wickets, and England's Johnny Bairstow managing a century after being hurt. Ash Barty dominates in Adelaide in her quest to take out the Australian Open crown. The strict COVID measures stopping AFLW players from socialising as their season begins. And the buzzer beater that had the crowd on its feet in the NBA. Welcome back. Scott Boland has been cleared of any serious injury in a fall after claiming 2 wickets in a brutal day's play at the SCG. The Aussies clawed back some control following a fight back by England and Johnny Bairstow, who ended the day on 103.
More rain, another late start on the century makers on a roll, Usman Khawaja. Yesterday's hero among all players auctioning pink caps for the McGrath Foundation. First to strike, a local hero.
Oh, got him! Stark bursting through.
Top pole taker with 15 wickets. The Stark message for batters, use it or lose it. Cue the cult hero. 6 for 7 in Melbourne for Scott Boland, followed by 1 for none. But this bloke doesn't take wickets one at a time.
Edge taken!
A duck for Joe Root, the Boxing Day hero embraced by the pink crowd on of all days like Glenn McGrath. Cameron Green got in on the act. At lunch, England 4 for 36. Amidst the bowling blitzkrieg, the bazaar.
Oh, and he's bowled him!
Ben Stokes standing firm, the bail failing to dislodge.
That is quite incredible.
Could Stark cleaning spikes with a bail be to blame? Stokes struck back, wincing from that side strain. Johnny Bairstow took 1 for Queen and Country. Crowd abuse annoying both batsmen at tea. Stokes punishing Nathan Lyon, belting the off-spinner beyond the boundary. A Lyon armball trapped the all-rounder in front for 66. A painful thumb knock for Bairstow required running repairs. He too belting the goat into the grandstand.
Goes hard and long. Big ball.
A lack of bounce almost undid Mark Wood. Pat Cummins' bounces seemed to only hit helmet, but Snicko sensed a splinter of bat. Wood gone for 39. Bairstow scoring England's first century of the series.
Brilliant. And you can see what it means to him.
Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Seven's Mel McLaughlin is at the SCG to wrap up a gripping day's play.
Seven cricket commentator Simon Kadich joins me now. Kat, we know England, the Ashes are gone, but it's great to see some fight in them today.
Yeah, they certainly showed a lot. They were 4 for 36 and staring down the barrel of being bowled out cheaply, but Ben Stokes and Johnny Bairstow showed a lot of fight and very good partnership, over 100 runs, and they've shown a fair bit today to be able to take this test into day 4 and potentially day 5, depending on what happens tomorrow with the weather.
They say cricket can involve a bit of luck. Have you ever seen anything like that bizarre incident we saw with Stokes and Green?
Amazing. Cameron Green hit off stump and Ben Stokes was given out LBW, so Paul Rifle thought it hit the pad, but end up the replay showed that it hit the off stump, and it hit it hard but didn't dislodge the bail. So amazing seeing that happen out in the middle. Normally the stumps are flying everywhere.
Yeah, indeed. Now we've seen a pretty wet and wild fourth Ashes test. What do you expect, given the potential rain interruptions? Hopefully that stays away, but what do you expect?
Well, I think Australia now have to bat again, and they're going to have to get a decent lead, so that with this wicket deteriorating, they want to make sure that they're getting 300 plus in the last innings of the test. So it should go into day 5 now.
All right, thanks, Kat.
My pleasure.
The AFL has imposed strict new COVID protocols for AFLW players and staff ahead of round 1 tonight. They've been told to avoid socialising with teammates and colleagues in the home and not to attend indoor events with more than 100 people. Shopping centres have also been flagged as high risk for the next 2 weeks. St Kilda and Richmond face off in the first match, and you'll see that live and free on 7 and 7 Mate from 7 p.m. Ash Barty is through to the semi-finals of the Adelaide International after a dominant win over Sophia Kenin. The Aussie was all power against the world number 12, winning in straight sets in tricky conditions.
That's what you want. Honestly, it's nice to come out here and really be tested right from the start and know that you have to bring your very best level.
Today in Melbourne, Bernard Tomic hit the practice court in his bid to qualify for the Australian Open. As far as buzzer beaters go in the NBA, this one is pretty spectacular, trailing the Boston Celtics for almost all of the game and 25 points down at one stage. The New York Knicks clawed their way back to a tie in the final quarter and had 1.5 seconds left on the clock.
Finds Barrett. Get a shot up. This is for the win. Oh! It's good! Off the window! R.J. Barrett wins it for the Knicks!
Don't mind it. RJ Barrett was mobbed by teammates after his winning shot, leaving Celtic fans in disbelief. And guys, that wraps up sport.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Well, Sonia returns with an update on the City Storm. Sonia, what's the latest? A lot happening.
There is, Beck, that storms are tracking over the city right now, but they will be gone tomorrow. I'll have the full forecast for you after the break. Good evening, and I hope you're staying safe as potentially dangerous storms pass through. A storm has just hit the city. It was potentially life-threatening as it passed over Werribee late this afternoon, but it has weakened slightly as it closed in. It is still severe, and Greater Melbourne remains under a severe weather warning with tonight's storms capable of producing damaging winds, large hail and heavy rainfall. We've been under fire from severe storms all day. They were mainly focused over the west and the southeast. And the main feature has been the rainfall. Point Cook copped a drenching for the second day in a row, 52 millimetres falling there today. There's been 48 at Werribee and 28 in Frankston, most of that in just half an hour. In the city right now, from a high of 25.8 degrees, the temperature has dropped to 21. For another day, we had severe storms and widespread showers again developing everywhere, but in that far northwest corner. The wild weather is starting to ease from the west, but there is still a large area of the state tonight at the risk of severe storms as that low pressure trough bringing us this intense weather starts to drift over eastern Victoria. So during Saturday, the storm risk clears central Victoria, which includes the city. By Sunday, our taste of the tropics is a distant memory. It'll be dry and settled across most of the state. To the forecast now, and it is cool and cloudy tomorrow across southern Victoria with areas of isolated light showers or drizzle. Warm, dry and sunny in the north, but there is the risk of afternoon showers and thunderstorms still for the northeast. Closer in, and the air is drier, but the clouds are still with us, and we're likely to get some drizzly showers during the day. Most spots heading for 21 or 22 degrees. Here in the city, we're starting on 18 degrees under grey skies and a little bit of drizzle. It's a cooler top of 21. Then we're back on a warming trend. Sunday, 24 degrees under a mix of sun and cloud. We rise to 29 degrees in the city on Monday with a fresh breeze through the afternoon. Tuesday, 27 degrees with showers and the risk of a storm in the nearby hills. A possible shower on Wednesday, 28. Thursday, dry and 29. And then we'll get another possible shower on Friday. But tomorrow, even though we're still under grey drizzly skies, we say goodbye to the humid storms. We are heading for a high of 21 degrees. So less humidity tomorrow, but it is cooler.
Okay.
Can do with less humidity.
Thank you very much, Sonia. And that's 7 News for this Friday. Of course, we'll have updates later.
The footy returns tonight with the season opener of AFLW as St Kilda takes on the Mighty Tigers. Enjoy the game. Have a great night.
It's already started.